Hello and welcome to Nikki's Narratives this week. Are we sticking with that name? I'm not sure. There were some excellent suggestions in the comments last week. Maybe we need to stick a poll up or something. I'm not sure. Let's go with it for now. And I think this week should be a really pretty straightforward, quick video because there's only really one burning question out there. Should I buy Payne Haas? Yes. Thanks for watching. See you next week. Well, I suppose while we're here, might as well talk a little bit longer than that. Um, look, Payne Haas, obviously an amazing buy-in, but to me, he's not a burn your team down buy-in to get him. So if there's people that you don't want to sell and are in normal situations a bad sell, like an Isaiah Yo, yeah, I wouldn't do it. I'm not doing it. I'm holding you. Uh, will I be watching terrified in this Broncos Cowboys game? Yep, absolutely. But I mean, look, this, I know some people are really, really, really hell bent on getting Hassan in any circumstance, and I completely understand it. It just goes against everything that I believe in and have, learned playing fantasy over the years. But this might be the exception. Like, this new offloading monster of a man might be the exception to the rules, and a whole new scenario where you just have to do whatever it takes to get him in, or you're going to pay for it, right? You're just not going to be able to compete if you don't have him in your team. Or he does come back to the pack a little bit and sits at like a 65 to 70 average, which is still obviously awesome, but is kind of what you're paying for at this point. So look, I don't really want to belabor the Haas chat a lot. Everyone's been talking about it all week. Jamie went into a lot of detail in his videos, Scoop and Mitch as well have talked about it. So yeah, look, if you can get him in, get him in. If you really want to get him in, making trades that I wouldn't do, I'm still not going to stop you. I completely get it. And if it makes you like if you're going to enjoy playing the game, having Payne Haas in your team, then all all sport, go for it. But yeah, general advice, don't don't break your team. Um, so we'll get to some of the YouTube questions in a minute. But I wanted to, before we did that, we'll also have a look at my team if we get time. I normally talk far too long and end up skipping over that part, but there's not really a lot to see there at this point in time. Not having Watson, not having Haas, it's not been great. But hopefully in a few more weeks, I'll be more encouraged to show my team and the progress. But we'll get to that. We'll get to the YouTube videos. But what I wanted to spend a bit of time on is talking about like how I kind of look at things and look at players and make decisions. And I thought that might be useful rather than I've said before, I don't want to have these videos being just me kind of telling people what to do. Should I trade him for him? Yes or no? That's not what I want to kind of to bring to this. I want to help people kind of make decisions on their own. And the game's much more fun that way. Right? You don't want to be just playing the game, doing what other people tell you. You want to be able to make those calls, and it's so much satisfying when you make a call and it works and it's great. Especially if other people have maybe gone, "Oh, I don't like that. I don't think so." But you're kind of you've looked at things. You've got you go with your gut, as we've said a lot. Um, you know, over over years of playing fantasy, but especially this year, these first few weeks, go with your gut. So this came about in the private group chat where somebody brought up Beau Fermor. Is Beau Fermor a buy? Should I bring in Beau Fermor? And it's, I guess, a really good kind of example and question. So I kind of questioned, like, if you were to bring in Beau Fermor, and I'm not saying he's a good bring in, a bad buy in, anything in between, but if you do bring him in, like, what are you looking for? Like, why are you buying him? And these are the type of questions that I think you want, you ask yourself if you want to bring somebody in. what am I doing this for? What do I expect to happen? Am I going to be happy with that outcome? What would make me happy? Like what do I want to happen? What do I think will happen? Where's that range? And where's it going to sit? So if we have a look at old Beau here, um, first thing, first thing I always do, and like we all do this. It's not necessarily a good thing, but it's human nature. If somebody brings up a player, we've always got that just instinctual reaction to who we think they are as a fantasy player. And a lot of it's negative. If we've had players before, like this week, a couple of mentions of is Satilli a good bring in starting at the Bulldogs, and the instant reaction is just after last year, you go, oh God, no, please no. Let's just no. Um, Now, that's not obviously a good reaction in a lot of cases because situations change. You know, don't be put off by, just a bad experience. Just because you had somebody that didn't work out doesn't mean they're not going to work out now. Just because you had somebody years ago and they turned out really well doesn't mean they're a good bring in now. So we've got these reactions. You might as well, try not to pay a lot of attention to them, but it's always worth considering. Like, what do you think they are? And Beau Fermor to me is a solid keeper level center, easily be, top five, top three scorers in the center position over the season. But he's kind of priced. He's priced up, so probably not a whole lot of value. Like that would be my initial thought. That was my thought preseason. Thinking about Fermor. I had Lucas in the same kind of zone. I had Lucas a little bit higher, based on, I mean, just more that gut feeling more than anything else in terms of that attacking upside. But like very, very, very similar. And if you pick between them, if you wanted one of them at the start of the year, not taking buys into consideration, I'd put them very much in the same category. But let's have a look. Okay, let's see who is Beau Fermor. And look, you've seen this a lot. Everybody uses this. If you don't use foodiestatistics.com, I definitely recommend going in, having a play around, seeing some information like this. It's a godsend, really, for playing this game. The amount of information, historical information there, it just helps so much. So, if you're not using this website, number one tip would be get in there, have a play around, have a look at people. Helps so much. So let's have a look at his career, right? First things first, second row, over 70 minutes, kind of what we expect him to do. Career average, 49.7. Okay, yeah, that sounds about right, 50 average. Cool. Um, then I'll kind of have a look at, okay, well, that's his career, but what's he done over the last couple of years? Can I put more weight into recent seasons, especially if a player, the longer the player's been in the league, you get a long body of work, but you weight, or I weight the more recent occurrences than what's happened in the past. Because, like, um as players get more experience, they might get better. You know, can you can you really judge 2025 Beau Fermor to 2020 Beau Fermor? He's a different player. He might be in the same team, but it's a different team. If you know what I mean, different situation. They might have different coaches. They might have moved teams. They might be playing different roles, even if they're playing the kind of same position. So, career average is useful, but then I like comparing to like more recent years as well, just to see if it's any different. The 2024 49.8. So very, very similar. He obviously missed 23 being injured, 2022, 51.8. So a little bit higher, but still that general performance. 2021, a bit lower, smaller sample size. And I think 2020, yeah, again, small sample size at that point. So, you can see improvement. So you had 43, 42 smaller games, then up to 51, almost 52, then 49.8, nets out to a career. Ooh, that's this year. That 50 average. So that's pretty useful to me. So that kind of is that matches what I had in my head, right? Which is that solid 50 average guy. And now the kind of, I guess, human element comes in, which is, okay, I've seen what he's done for his career. I've seen how his career's progressed. So he had a couple of, lower average games, lower average years, but wasn't playing as many games. He then had 2022 where he really kicked off the 52. Had his year being out injured, dropped back a little bit, a tiny bit. I mean, it's sometimes when you're talking a point and averages, it's noise, it's rounding differences. It's not that much. So to me, a 51 point whatever, 49 point whatever, essentially it's the same thing. You don't need to get too specific in this. Uh, so yeah, and that's what he's priced at. So that average the last 2 years, he's priced at that. Do you think that's, and this, yeah, the human element is like, okay, do you think that's who he is then? Like, is that just where he's settled into that position where he is a 50 guy? Or is there further improvement? So that jump he took from 21 to 22, maybe 2024 started a bit slower, getting his feet back under him, after the injury, came back stronger in the back half. Is that more who he is? So is there an additional improvement there? Can he get to a 55? Are the Titans good enough for him to get to a 55? Do you see their attack, helping him out? You'll have a solid base. What will probably tick him over that extra bit is some more attacking stats. So, 3 tries last year. Can he improve that? These are the questions to ask. And then once you've kind of answered that, you go, well, okay, is that enough for me to buy him? So if you're paying a 51 price, if you get a 51 average, are you okay with that? Like, is that what you're buying him for? You just want that center locked up all season. Give me a 50 average. I don't care about value. If he does get that little bit of upside, fantastic. But I'm just buying it for the 50. Or are you buying him because you think he's going to get that 55 plus? And if he does only average 50, then you're going to be disappointed. And that's the bit where you kind of can't answer it in terms of should I buy Beau Fermor? It's like, well, yes. Like, there's no problem with it. Like, he's a good buy-in. Like, he's a good, solid, like I said, keeper center if that's what you want. But then it becomes that question of, well, can you replicate it elsewhere? Is the other part that is the next bit. Because if you think, okay, look, he's a 50 guy, he's priced at 50, I'll pay the money for a 50. Then the next question comes, well, can I get that 50 elsewhere for cheaper? Right? Like, do I have to pay 683 for Beau Fermor if I don't think he has that upside? If I just think he'll give me a 50, can I get it elsewhere? So you might look at people like, say, a Ruben Garrick. Now, I'm not as high on Garrick this year as a lot of other people were. Like, weeks before the start of the season, I was really surprised when I saw him, up there in kind of 20 um plus percent ownership. Like, I mean, I understand why he's popular. He had dual position, very solid scorer. I was just kind of surprised at how high that was. But he's another guy. If we do the same thing, look at um, his career center over 70 minutes. Doesn't have a lot prior to last year, but he's up 48 average. Look at last year, 49.3 average. Like, if you think that Garrick and Fermor are just basically going to replicate what they did before, which is essentially that 50 average, then well, you can get Garrick for 100K cheaper, right? He's priced at 44. Fermor's priced at 51. If you're looking for a center, a season-long keeper center, like, do you think? I mean, essentially the question is, do you think Fermor will average more than like 7 points more than Garrick? And if the answer is yes, then Fermor's the one you bring in. If the answer is no, then maybe Garrick or somebody else, right? I'm not saying you have to get one of these two, obviously. These are just kind of random suggestions that came to my head as I was, with the massive 10 minutes of um preparation that goes into these videos. Maybe I shouldn't say that. Maybe Jamie expects a bit more of me. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see if I get told off for letting that out. Um, so yeah, like that's the type of analysis that I would go in, and this could be for anybody at any position at any point of the year, right? And the questions become different the later you go in the year. Later on, the later we go in the year, we're less worried about value and cash generation. It's just points. Like we just want points. We'll get our guns in. At this stage of the year, there's that mixture, right? We need to score well. We still need points, but we need to get that cash in. That was where the whole, Isaiah Yo argument in the preseason, not in our community, but in certain other places that I've seen, became quite heated discussion around is Isaiah Yo a bad buy-in, like a bad player to start with because he's priced at essentially what we expect him to score? Or do you pay for the safety of, I mean, safety after last week, the assumed safety of just locking in those 60 plus points every week? You pay, that is the value. There's no cash generation value, but there's value in security of scoring. And that's the type of question you bring in here. Like, yeah, maybe you think Garrick has a bit more value than Fermor, but Beau is safer, and that's what you want. You just want that 50 points in your center spot. You're not too worried about the value, or you just don't want the fluctuation. You just want that what you think is a locked in value. And I think as you has shown, there's no such thing as guaranteed scoring. But all we can do is make our assumptions based on what we know. So yeah, like that's hopefully that made sense. I kind of rattled through it a bit quick, perhaps. So let me know if it does make sense. Like when I've said before, when I've done these videos, I want to maybe look at things a little bit different than some of the other guys, just to give you a reason to watch more than anything. Once all the TLT and buy wholesale videos and stuff have come out, you know, um, I can again I give my opinions on certain transactions and stuff and the questions, but yeah, I just want to kind of show where I'm coming from, how I look at things, and then yeah, instead of just telling people what to do, hopefully help them make decisions going forward. The last bit on this before we close off, and I just kind of wanted to show as well that the numbers, I mean, these numbers aren't gospel or anything, right? This is what's happened. Is that an indication of what's going to happen in the future? No. Like we can use as much, you know, we can use prior prior activity as much as we can, but the part of the skill in fantasy is finding this value, right? Like finding stuff that maybe other people don't. And that was kind of where I was coming from. I've talked about it before with my Bradman best pick. And I've had a bit of stick on this. Maybe not stick's the right word. I think there was a comment in the video last week with best and a throwing up emoji. Well, it wasn't throwing up last week after the 77. But just to give again an idea on kind of how like where my head was at, I guess when picking Bradman best was doing that same analysis. So if you look at his career, center over 70 minutes, it's not very good. Like 41.7. He's priced at 45 now. He was around 43 at the start of the year. Like that's not somebody you generally want. But if we dig in a little bit further, like we did with the other guys, and we look at last year, he's got a 48. So that's much better, right? 2023, it's down to a 43. 2022, down to 35. And, beyond 35, 36, 2021. So this is where, again, you ask those questions of like, well, okay, like what is he? Like, is he a 41, 42 average? Is that reflective of what we'll get from him? Or is what we saw in 2024 more reflective? Because obviously we can see that improvement. And to me, like if you look at best, like he's younger than we like think sometimes. He's still only 23. Last year, 2022 season, 2023, that was his 2021 season. So averaged 43. I think he would have turned 22 at some point in the year. Um, and so since then, so since the start of this season, he's been in Origin, he's been a match winner in Origin. That improvement just, you can put that improvement to the human element. Why is that gone up? Well, you can put that down. Can we just put that down to him improving as a player? Like he's growing up, he's growing into his body, if you like. He's becoming more of a focal point of the Newcastle attack. And these were the questions. Like if you think this was an outlier, then you wouldn't touch him, right? He goes back to his prior, early 40s average. There's no need to get him. But if you think that this year, and if 48 average in 24, and if you actually kind of cherry pick the stats from round six onwards, he was like a 57 average, really beating up on some of the weaker teams. If you think that's more reflective of him, priced at 43, there was a lot of value there, right? Especially with why we all jumped on Knights players, that soft draw that we think that they had. The other kind of interesting element as well, if you look beyond the numbers, is like he's obviously he relies on attacking stats as all you know backs will, but the Newcastle attack between 23 and 24 went down horribly. They were a terrible attack in 24. They were the second lowest scoring team, just above the Tigers. But his improvement, his fantasy score still improved. So if the Newcastle attack went the other way, if they were a really low scoring team in 23 and then a bigger attack in 24, you could put that down to just, well, that's just Newcastle improving. It's not really him. But if the team scoring goes down and his attacking goes up, does that mean that there's some additional scope for improvement when if Newcastle attack improves again, right? Which again, I think a lot of people, we kind of thought they would, and why a lot of people jumped on Knights guys. Um, so that was, and so that was just my thinking by best. And again, how we use these numbers, and you can kind of interpret them because depending on because you can create narratives, and again, we don't always get these things right, obviously. And I think it'd be really easy for someone like say Best look at his career average and go, well, that looks a bit, that looks a bit iffy, but kind of maybe trying to analyze a bit more of an analytical lens on it, like what the numbers mean, you can see, or I could see what I presume to be a fair bit of value there. And, will it come true? I mean, first week, yeah, this is why we don't read into things too early. First week, I mean, that was a 37 going on about 87. That was a whirlwind of a game. This week looked up was just a really easy watch as an owner. Um, to be like, yeah, look, I mean, will he average 57 for the year? And it'd be great. I doubt it. But still, starting the year at 43, he didn't have to, right? So, as I said, this is how I look at things. And if you ask me a question, if I'm answering a question, this is kind of the lens that I've taken to kind of give an answer. So yeah, I think we've gone a little bit over what I wanted to on that. But like I said, as I probably said 5 minutes ago, hopefully it made sense. Hopefully you got something out of it. Let me know. Let's get into some questions before I just talk forever. Um, so, as I said, a lot of these I think are just going to be, should I get Haas? Yes, but mostly answers. Um, I mean, Jack Bird, yeah, yeah, he's a sell. Like Jack Bird's weird. I still don't exactly know what's going on there. He got his PPM was really what we expected in the last game, but only got 30 minutes. But then was shown with his knee on ice, on the bench. So was only 30 minutes the plan, or was he taken off early because of injury? I was never really sure, but yeah, look, I mean, you can easily sell him, but uh, yeah, easy. Humphreys, I mean, I think you still have to get him. He's you talk about Payne Haas killing you. If you didn't have Humphreys, yeah, that's trouble. Hosking to Nicholson or Starling. Yeah, like I think both are fine. Up to you. Uh, Trading Barnett and Hosking. Past Arthurs. I've seen Arthurs come up a lot. I did have his stats open. I don't. Oh, I must have closed it. Sorry. I'll get it back up. Like I get, we see the points. The Broncos are flying. He's got 50s. He's going to score tries. But like if you get three tries, two line breaks, and score 55, like that's not great. Games last year, a try for 28, a try for, I'm sorry, try for 22, a try for 30. Like if you think he can continue to score two, three tries a game, I get it. But yeah, there's just so many of these games in there. And I know the Broncos are, or we expect the Broncos to be a much better unit than they were last year. So yes, he's more likely to score tries, and yes, he's less likely to get these 12, 15 games. But yeah, I don't know. Not the type of guy I'm kind of targeting, to be honest. But yeah, like if you want Haas, sure. Barnett, trading Barnett. Again, these are the ones where I'm not going to stop you. I don't necessarily think he's a sell. You know, first game he had a really good PPM, but people were worried about the minutes. Second game he gets the minutes, not as good a PPM. Like he'll come good to somewhere to as what we expected, I think. But I get why you would jump off to go to Haas, so it's fine. I won't stop you. All Kawato, I can't speak to these guys. I mean, you could just hold. Like you don't have to sell. Trades, I'm definitely planning at some point doing a video closer to the origin period about trades. I haven't quite formulated all my thoughts on it. I think this year, in terms of trades, the general like consensus, the meta of this year was going to be you can trade really hard now this year, not worry about holding trades as much because we're not going to have to trade very much over the origin period. We only have to play 13 over the minor buy rounds. Um, that's going to be easy. We don't need the trades. The way things have kind of started off, though, I'm recording this, but I started recording was shortly after the news on Dylan Lucas, and obviously Lucas injured, Hosking injured, Duffy dropped. The carnage is starting to come. But if just because we don't have to save trades to get 13 on the park doesn't mean that saving trades isn't going to be a good idea. Like there could be a whole in previous years, we have just kind of been like, if you can fit a full team out over Origin, that you're doing well. Right? You're going to beat people who haven't planned well, who are fielding, 11, 12 on a major buy or fielding 15, 16 on a minor buy. This year, yeah, it's probably going to be quite easy to get 13 on the park, but how good is your 13? And this is where I think later on it's going to be really interesting thinking about that because if you have managed to save trades, you can really, really dominate that period by saying, somebody might go, right, I'll hold Cleary and Yo and Haas and these guys, through the whole period. I don't need to sell them out. But if you've got the trades to sell them, bring in a Hines, assuming he doesn't play Origin, and AFB, whoever, you know, bring them in, then bring in your guns again, and or just mix and match, switch people out to beef up your 13 that other people aren't going to be able to do, then that's still going to be a great advantage. So look, just because it's going to be easier doesn't mean we can go hell for leather or we should be going hell for leather on these trades. If you can trade, if you can hold them is still my opinion. But this is a kind of new scenario, so we'll see how it goes. But yeah, I think having trades is still going to really, really be beneficial. When we get Haas, it's asking Seyfarth for Haskell. Yeah, like again, same stuff. Duffy Hubner. Nah. Like, yeah, I get it. I wouldn't trade Seyfarth. And yeah, I like that second option better. Just replying to that. I like the second option better. I hope you get Carnage this week. I think that was written before the Lucas news. So here we go. um, people probably sideways trades left and right. Yeah, exactly. Like this is definitely happening. Um, absolutely. Can you loop Hubner? Yes, you can. Logs out at the start of the game. Exactly. Would you go Starling? See, you go view people selling Starling. Like Starling is a buy more than a sell. But again, if you're desperate for Haas, up to you. Bringing in Wong, yeah, not convinced. Like we'll see how the minutes shake out now that the Roosters have some have their cattle back. But yeah, I don't think we jump on Wong now. Trading Preston down. I mean, no, hold Preston. I think. I mean, again, what do you expect? But if you need, oh, if you don't have Humphreys, then I suppose you need to do something. I'll reply offline, I think, for these ones. Barnett and Duffy to yeah, again, same comments. Like, I don't think Barnett is a sell. Like, I mean, I'd probably just hold there. Like again, I don't think Nicholson's a must-have. I don't think Barnett's a must-sell. You can trade Duffy out if you want, but yeah, like that's not hold some trades. Um, Thoughts on Ricky? Yeah, it's kind of interesting one. He's somebody that I've not seen talked about a lot. And this is weird. This is like the perfect example to kind of jump into that analysis that I was talking about, right? You know, who is he? What's he done historically? What do we think he's going to do going forward? Very quickly, let's just go, second row over 70 as a default. Career av 43. It's priced at 44. Last year 39. So actually last year is actually worse than his career average. You know, doesn't necessarily bode well for, like um up to 43 in 2023. So you can see that he's, 2022, 41. So and I think I looked at this earlier. His best season was actually, yeah, you go 48 in 2021. Um, so like to if you're projecting like say a 50, 55, it's tough to see that based on what's happened before. But again, the human element of looking at things of, if you've got a lot of faith in the Broncos, and yeah, he has, he missed 5 tackles on the weekend, still got a 49. Like, looks pretty solid, right? Like it's mostly base. So yeah, like if you think he can keep that up and priced at 44, you think he can get up to that 50 plus? Yeah, there's value there. Interesting. So, and he's be a pretty big pod as well. So yeah, not somebody that had really been on my radar, to be fair. And you're kind of putting a lot in trust on that improvement. But if you see it, it might be there. What to do with Turbo? I mean, like if you've got Turbo, yeah, if he's injured, like, yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'd say hold. Like if he's fit, hold him. But if you want to use him to get to Haas or whatever, again, yeah, it seems fine. Um, Hosking and Duffy for Howarth and Francis. Yeah, like Francis is a bit of a flyer. I don't know a whole lot about him, to be honest. But practically basement price and go too wrong. So yeah, that seems fine. Uh, so somebody asking replace Hosking, prioritize Lucas or Nicholson. Well, uh, Nicholson's your answer now that Lucas is out. Not sure whether to get Starling or Nicholson. Either's fine. Watson minutes gets impacted. I hope so. I really hope so. because he's killing me. Um, I at some point, I'm quite sure he'll get a rest. It might not be every week. It might not be this week. I just don't see the need for them to like flog him 80 minutes when they've got everybody fit. So I'm not going to say I don't think it'll be as easy as say, oh, he'll be a 60 to 65-minute guy every week. There'll still be weeks where he plays 80. I just don't think it'll be every week. And it might depend on game flow and how they're, how it's working out, if they're ahead or they might, give him additional rest, etc. So I think he'll get a rest at some point, and I really hope it starts soon. And Harry Grant crushes it, and I can feel better about that choice. Um, Question here. Again, this is kind of what we were talking about, like trading Yo out for Haas and then try and bring him back in later on. Yeah, as Jamie said, like trades are important. If we had infinite trades, it'd be great. Like we could just do whatever we want and it'd be perfect, but we really need to think later on. 27 weeks is a long time. There's going to be weeks where we're trading three, four guys a week just to field teams. Like the carnage will happen. And yeah, like you'll appreciate having them banked if you bank them. Youngie to Tamale. I mean, Tamale should be in. I don't think Youngie's like a must sell or anything. I have a little bit of hope that they'll be able to improve, but yeah, that's fine. I mean, Tamale's a important guy to have. Bateman and Barnett, Pass Howarth. Yeah, again, fine. Like again, I'm not saying no to those. Preston or Hopgood to Haas. I mean, again, like I don't think either of them are really sells, but if you want to, fine. Trading out Lucas and Gilbert. I mean, again, okay, now makes my comment from earlier a bit wrong, but at the time, Dylan Lucas was not a trade out. But now with the injury, you definitely can if you want. Although, I mean, look, in general, 2 weeks I wouldn't trade, but is it going to be 2 weeks? Who knows? Um, selling Hosking and Walsh. I mean, Walsh isn't a sell. I'm really interested in looking to pick him up in a couple of weeks if he goes down to, 500s, if the mid 500s or something. Like, yeah, these, um, but again, look, if it's Haas, you really want it, you can do it. Right. Oh, looking for time. Gone on far too long as usual. Let's have a quick look at my team then. Everybody can laugh at me. I have improved a little. We're still on 22,692. Um, Last week was always going to be, I mean, it was just, I had Grant and Munster out. It was never going to be a good week, a great week. But, again, I kind of look at the team. Yeah, I don't have Watson. I don't have Haas. I'm still pretty happy with it. Like, that's the thing. You just kind of hope that Yo goes back to normal, Grant goes back to normal, Haas and Watson go back to normal. Like, if everything kind of washes out in the long run, as you kind of, hope it does, then, you'll be able to catch up. Um, the trades for this week are so far, so obviously not locked in yet. Hoskin and Nicholson, a few people asked about Nicholson. My general take was I don't think he's a must-have or anything, but he makes a lot of sense as a move from Hoskin. So if you need an edge, I think it makes a ton of sense to get him in, free up a bit of cash as well. And my other trade was Duffy to Jack Howarth. This isn't locked in or anything yet. I'm kind of playing around with it still. There's a few other options. Like Laurie, if somebody tells me between now and the game tomorrow night that Dane Laurie gets 4 weeks, I really think I'd go Laurie. So if he gets 4 weeks, I'd go Laurie. 3 weeks, 2 weeks, like yeah, I probably can't do it. Um, the other end a lot of people go for will be Starford Toa. I actually traded Toa out last week. He was my way of getting Humphreys and keeping Metcalf. So I thought I was a genius after the Warriors game. Then Toa comes out with his 50 odd, and it was just one of these situations that a lot of people were in last week where there wasn't. I mean, if we could tell the future and could have gone Duffy to um, Humphreys, then that would have been perfect. But alas, we are not fortune tellers. So I've got Highworth. Part of the reason I'm going Highworth is for that edge cover as well. So I don't have like a Lucas or a Fermor who have that edge center duel. Um, so I didn't have any edge coverage. I didn't have any last week, and I wouldn't have any this week. So it gives me a bit of additional coverage, which is kind of why I want to do it this week rather than next week. Normally would think Howarth against against Penrith, isn't like a must in or anything. Um, but I was already one short next week, and this kind of shows the carnage that can happen, right? Like this week first week was sweet as. This week, Hosking, Lucas now, Hubner's suspended, Duffy got dropped. Like we've lost four guys. Some people have lost four guys in 1 week. If I didn't bring in Howarth this week, so I have to bring in an edge because I didn't have an edge, right? So that's one trade I'm making. If I didn't make the Howarth trade, the next week I'm definitely one center or wing fullback short because of Best and Marjorie being out. So that means if I got, say, only two other injuries in those positions, so if Nicholson and Seyfarth both get injured, then I'm three short, right? I have no edges, and I'm down a center or wing fullback, and I've only got two trades, so I'm screwed. By making the trade this week, that means I have that additional safety that if I get two injuries next week, if Nicholson and Seyfarth both get injured next week, then I have two trades, right? I can fill those gaps. So it gives me a little bit of additional safety. If I get three injuries, then I'm in trouble. But I think if three people get injured next week, there'll be a lot of people in trouble, right? So that's just kind of nature of the game. So that's why I'm making that trade this week, or at the moment, I'm making that trade this week rather than kind of holding on. So um, nothing else to really talk about in my team that hasn't been said before. I'm glad to have Munster and Grant back. Yes, they've got Penrith. I think Penrith will put up a much better fight than they did against the Roosters, but you know, they're not odds in the grand scheme of things, but I think they're kind of the players that a lot of the higher people high up in the rankings don't have. So if they go well, this is where I can start kind of climbing those ranks and getting back into it. Best and Marju have been amazing. Well, Best wasn't that great in the first game, but this is my kind of plan or hope was, if I have Best and Marju, I talked about Best earlier, if they can kind of replicate Lucas and Ponga to some degree, like they're not going to score as well as Lucas and Ponga, but for the cheaper prices, not being left behind by the other two, which has, happened. Like Marju in particular, is way, way outscoring his price. Ponga got an 80 odd, great. Marju got a, 70 for 200, 250K cheaper, whatever he was to start the year. So, those guys have been great. Next week will be annoying when they're not there, but worth having them in, definitely, just for that, even though they've got that bye. Brimson, annoying. I think he'll come good. That try, if he'd scored that try, he gets a 50 and everyone's loving it. But so, one of these things. And yeah, my bench, I'll work out. I haven't sorted out looping and stuff yet. I'll work that out. But yeah, Cole and Yongi definitely not high on the list of like making or their way into the 17 anytime soon. So, all right, I think I've gone on longer than necessary as usual. If you're still here, good job. Can't believe you listened to my voice for 3/4 of an hour. But like I said, hopefully it's useful for you. Let me know. Any suggestions? Like I want to make these useful. I want to get people to get value out of them. And yeah, if I can change things, whether that's making things shorter or concentrating on more specific things, then yeah, let me know. Cool. Thanks, everybody. Bye.